Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah Satnam.
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Today we're speaking with Anne Lastman, who's a post-abortion grief counsellor. In our normal format, I'll discuss with Anne her spiritual background as to why she's at the position she is now, and then we'll go on to talk about abortion and other issues. Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Norm.
I believe that you had an award recently. What was that?
I was awarded the Charles Francis Pro-Life Award for 2013. It's a
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a real special honour because I knew Charles very well, and it's in his memory and given by his family. So it was very special. For the first time ever, I was actually speechless on the evening.
Yes. Well, we always mark those moments down, don't we, when that happens. You've got quite a background which sets you up to be able to do what you're doing, rather than me read it out. Can you tell us what those qualifications are?
Or do you want the uni stuff? Okay.
Go right through the whole thing. Yes.
Okay. A Bachelor of Psychology with a second major in Religious Studies, a Diploma of Secondary Education, a Master's in Religious Education, a Master's in Theological Studies, a Diploma of Trauma, Grief and Loss, 1 unit to complete. I'm a member of the Australian Counselling Association, the Federation of Victorian Counsellors, and a member, level 3 member of the Australian College of Loss and Grief. So
yes, thank you very much. Well, that's the first part of the interview almost completed, just going through that. But as I said to you, if I could just trace your spiritual background, just right from a child, were you raised in a religious house, or was it strong, or what?
I am Italian, and Italians, we came to Australia when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
I was born in Italy, and all Italians were Catholic. And I went to a convent school in West Perth. I'm a West Australian girl. And I went to school up to grade 10 in those days, what was considered grade 10, year level 10. And then I had to go to work to help with the rest of the family with finances. I'm the eldest of 6 children, and I belong to St. Bridget's Catholic School in West Perth. Right. And we just were Catholics. We didn't know how to be different than being Catholics. We went to Mass, we did the sacraments. But when I look back, I'm not sure that we really understood. You just do.
Yes.
As a child, you just do. I remember thinking, reading. We had to read scriptures, and we read them in the school day, and it all sounded good then. And so long as you learnt it off by heart and knew how to say it, but I don't think we really understood. I've had my greatest pleasure in scriptures in my adult life. When I went to uni at the age of 44, when my last child went off to school, there was fulfilled a lifetime dream of going to uni, and I went as a mature age student. So I've done all this since 44. That's and amazing. I love the theology part of it. So, in fact, that's one of the things I wanted to become. Very often when I public talk or do a public talk, I start off with saying that if you want to make God laugh, just tell him your plans. And I did. And I did. I actually told him my plans, that I was going to be a professor of theology. Okay. And if you could listen, you can hear him still laughing, because that's not where I ended up. I ended up being a post-abortion grief counsellor, but I can use all the theology.
Yes.
It works beautiful. And I can still study it anyway and read, and I have about a personal library of about 2,000 books.
Good heavens.
Yeah.
And most of them read.
Most of them, and there's only 2 topics actually. I have no novels. I don't like novels.
No.
Psychology and theology.
Well, that's great foundation
and grief,
for what you're doing.
And grief, grief stuff,
yes,
all those areas,
yeah.
and trauma, grief and loss and those sorts. They're my work, but then over crowned with theology.
Right. Can I just take you back to the point of being a migrant? Did that give you an insight into a particular type of grief, being a migrant?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We came here, there was my mum, my dad, myself and my brother. And we left behind my nanas and granddads.
Yeah.
And so many aunties and uncles and cousins. And I never saw them again. I never saw them again.
Yes. And so do you think that maybe, even though you had this outcome of theology in mind, that your experience of grief sort of gave you a bit of an insight and an interest in that side?
I don't think the migration had anything to do with it, but it was interesting. I should have brought it today, knowing I was coming here. I'm going through old paperwork at the moment and shredding, because some is sensitive. And I came across...
Excuse me, just before we go through that paperwork, I've got a timeout issue because we're up to time.
Okay.
So we'll be back.
Remind me.
Yeah. We'll be back in a moment.
Allah. Hallelujah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and I'm speaking with Anne Lastman, who is a post-abortion grief counsellor. We got up to the point, Anne, of you emotionally connecting with your migration, your past, and you were elucidating the way in which perhaps the grief which grew out of that may have influenced you in your future career.
I don't think, well, that I was aware of, I don't think I was, no, I don't think that had anything to do with it. I am grieved over it and the losses of a huge family in Italy where I came from, and never having seen them again. And in fact, even when I go to Italy, and I go at least once a year now, I don't go south anymore because I come from southern Italy.
Yes.
I don't know anybody, so I don't. Where my grief thoughts were, where I can first pinpoint an area where I said, yes, this is the work I want to do, was when I read Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's book on loss and grief.
Yes.
I read this book and I said, yes, that's my work. And I remember as I was going through old paperwork and shredding, and I came across a short course of 8 weeks with a grief and loss group in Western Australia, which I did for a certificate, pastoral care certificate, 8 weeks only. And one of the questions was, what is it at the end that you would like at the end of your life? What would you have liked to have done? List 2 or 3 different things. And I remember the first thing was to have made a difference. Secondly, to know God and really know Him. And third, write a book. Of all things, write a book.
Yes.
Because, as you know, my own book has
Yes.
just been released, and I'm in the process of finishing a second book. But I'd forgotten all of that.
Yes.
It wasn't what I was expecting. I'm just looking through things before I shred them. I thought, I've done all those 3. The first one says, make a difference. And in my work
You've certainly done
as
that.
a post-abortion, over 1,500 women that are short and long term, that I've done a difference. I know I've made a difference. I know the 16 babies who are living because I've helped their mums. So, and write a book. I'd forgotten I wanted to write a book. And I did. And to get to know God. And that's an amazing part, because I've got to know Him in not only in the study part of it, which is fabulous. I love the study part of it, but also through a community that I've belonged with for about 25 years. I'm in a community, Catholic community, the Neo-Catechumenal Way. I love the Mass. I love our sacraments. I love everything about my faith.
Yes.
My own faith. But you know something I love also, that my work puts me in contact with others of different ones, of different faiths. It's lovely. I've dealt with someone from a Mormon girl, a Seventh-day Adventist, all different, non-religious. I have some really beautiful girls who don't profess a religious experience, but are very spiritual beings.
Yes.
Who can express words like, I love the sunset. Now, I dare anybody to say these girls don't see God when they look at the sunset, because they do. This job allows me both to be who I am as a Catholic, and believe what I do, but also to be able to listen to others with their beliefs and not say your beliefs are not valuable, because they are to them as much as mine are to me.
Yes. Well, that's a very valuable insight to have. How does it inform your work, this realization that there is this sort of in spiritual wholeness which spreads through all people, and we're talking about abortion? How does that define abortion? What is the fire which burns in you relative to abortion?
Well, my work is just basically to abortion means dehumanization. Okay? It means no hope, hopelessness. There's no hope in abortion.
No.
What my job is to, first of all, rehumanize the woman, because at some point she has been dehumanized herself.
Yes.
Okay? For her to have made such a decision to go against her own design, she's done that. Okay? And then help to rehumanize her baby or babies, because I'm seeing up to, last year I actually spoke to a lady with 20 abortions, 11 abortions,
Goodness.
7 abortions. That's normal. 2 abortions are normal now. 3, they're just becoming run-of-the-mill.
Good heavens.
So at the moment I'm even dealing with someone with 7 abortions. And each one of them, each one of the aborted babies, have to be rehumanized. They have to become human in the mother's mind, and given a name, and done something special for each one of the children. And then find if there is a religious belief in this, and the one I'm speaking about, there is a religious belief,
Yes.
that we will do a plaque with the children's names on it, and we will have a mass said for them.
Yes. This completion of the process, we must carry on with that. We're at break time,
Okay.
so we'll be back in a moment.
Mani Allah. Hallelujah. Mani Allah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and today we're speaking to Anne Lastman, a post-abortion grief counsellor. And Anne, you've been talking about the way in which your counselling has actually brought you into connection with people of different spiritual and, well, religious and non-religious perspectives, but you've identified that they're all spiritual in their approach. As a Catholic, and I was taken by your description of the fact that as an Italian you were Catholic. That's just what you were. Okay, that's a fair description. But what's elements of your Catholicism, as you pointed out, in your latter years, you started to get more into theology, more into your religion itself. Are there any parts of your Catholicism which sort of pop up, and they're sort of your signposts, your milestones in relation to abortion? Is there anything that category?
I think my own experience, Norm, is probably what propels me towards this work and towards the passion I have for it. My own experience of healing and being led through this by a priest, a beautiful Jesuit. He led me through a sequence of meetings, how to name my children, my two own aborted children, how to think of ways that I can reconnect with them.
Yes.
And ask the Lord, go to confession, because I had never confessed it. I need to say that for a time I left the church because I couldn't cope with what I'd done.
Yes.
And I believed that God wouldn't like to have a look at my face, that Jesus wouldn't like to have a look at me. He'd turn and walk away from me. I did.
Oh, yes.
And Father Michael said, no, Jesus doesn't walk away. He never walks away. And so he turned me back towards facing Jesus. And then he said, now, we're going to have a mass for your babies, and you let them go. You haven't lost, you're always their mum. You haven't lost them. And one day you'll meet them and they'll be waiting for you. And now you go and you do for others what was done for you.
Okay.
And this is the why I told you that you tell God your plans and that he starts to laugh. This is where he's laughing, because I had real visions of being this brilliant professor of Old Testament studies. I did. And I still read a lot of Old Testament studies. I love some of the theology of the Old Testament.
Yes.
And I read a lot. My husband's Jewish too, which helps a lot. Yes.
That's a nice mixture.
Yes, a Jewish and Catholic, yes.
Yes, yes.
So this is how I've come to do the work, but over the years I've put into it me.
Yes.
Okay. I've grown this baby called victims of abortion.
Yes.
I've grown. I've into every client that I have, there's me.
Yep.
People often say to me, Anne, teach others to do your work. What about when you can't do it anymore? Well, give me a qualified counsellor, first of all,
Yep.
because I won't do it otherwise. And then I will help them develop and put themselves into it.
Yeah.
It's not just, Anne, teach others. It can't happen. We live in a society that is ready to sue anybody. So we need to do differently. But I'm quite happy to help.
But your greatest qualification, however, is your experience
Yes.
of abortion itself. No one can teach that lesson to someone. And that obviously gives you a sense of affinity with your clients, which is beyond value. Very important.
Norm, I don't know if you believe in these things, but I've seen the children.
Yes.
I know that I can be considered a nutter,
I wouldn't be so unkind as to say that.
but I have actually seen the children
In what context was that?
in a dream. And
Yes.
but I did ask the Lord, would He allow me to see the children? And He did. And no, they weren't dismembered tiny bits. They were in their full form as they would have been
Yes.
in their perfect age. And they were beautiful. And I remember sitting on this most beautiful beach.
Yes.
Colours unlike I've ever seen, or we can see. And I was looking outwards into the waters. And from this side, I can still see it, from this side I'm walking to a boy and a girl. And they're beautiful, but I'm not noticing them. I can just see them from my eye.
Yes. Yes.
And I can see them, and they come close and they stop. And they just say, Mum.
They're in your company. That's a beautiful story. That's a beautiful story. And that sort of seed of emotional and spiritual connection is clearly the engine for you.
And so I help other mums,
Yes.
and I say to them, ask the Lord to let you see the children, but not until you're ready.
Not until you're ready.
Yeah, that's the important part.
Absolutely. And talking about ready, we're out of time, and we'll meet again in the next program.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Anne.
you're very welcome.
You've been watching Harmony and Diversity, and we'll be back next week, and we'll be continuing to speak with Anne.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti